Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for being here today for this very special screening of Saint-Omer by Alice Diop, who will be also joining us after the film for a conversation and a Q&A. My name is Melyssa Haffaf. I'm the Executive Director for the Gender Justice Initiative here at Georgetown. We are a cross-campus efforts between the Law Center on the other side of town, here main campus, and the Medical Center that supports and nurtures research, as well as programs focused on intersectional gender justice. And today we are very excited to partner with a DC-based organization called French in Motion, with my partner over here, Laetitia. Who also, so I'm going to try to read what you all do, which is amazing work, but this time I'm going to have to read this. So French in Motion is a nonprofit organization based in DC, but they have chapters in Paris, LA, and New York, and they bring together a growing community of nearly 400 film and TV talent and professionals from both sides of the Atlantic. And some of the key initiatives are an annual exchange program, US and French Connection. And their most recent initiative in the DFME is a movie nights, which is part of this series by French in Motion, which is a monthly series bringing captivating film by French and local filmmakers and creating a strong link between filmmakers, professionals of the industry, and cinephiles alike. And so if you are a filmmaker, love films, please get in touch. It's frenchinmotion.org. I would also like to thank some of our Georgetown co-sponsors who made this event possible. The French and Francophone Studies Department, the Women's and Gender Studies Program, the Film and Media Studies Program, the Culture and Politics Program in the School of Foreign Service. Tonight's program promises to be an exciting and engaging experience. So first we will have the film, which is about 2 hours, and then following the film we'll have about 30 to 40-minute conversation, depending on how time goes, with two moderators, Leonard, Cortana, and Rokhaya Diallo, who will be in conversation with Alice Diop, and then we will open it up to the audience to ask their questions as well. And now, let's enjoy the film. And thank you for being here. Hi again. I hope you enjoyed this beautiful film. Now we're going to go to the second part of our program, which is a conversation with the director herself, Alice Diop, as well as Rokhaya Diallo and Leonard Cortana. And I'm just going to briefly introduce our speakers right now. Leonard Cortana is a Ph.D. candidate in film studies at New York University Tisch School of the Arts, and a former fellow at the Harvard Law School's Berkman Klein Center. His research focuses on transnational film narratives about racial justice and activism, particularly examining their impact on historical memories across Chile, Brazil, France, and the US, with a focus on youth-themed productions. Cortana is also a filmmaker, and his documentary, Mariel's Legacy Will Not Die, highlights activist movements inspired by Afro-Brazilian leader Marielle Franco. Rokhaya Diallo is a distinguished French journalist, author, filmmaker, and an anti-racist feminist advocate. She's also our inaugural researcher in residence here at Georgetown at the Gender Justice Initiative, and we're very happy to have her on board. She has authored numerous books and contributes monthly to a column for the Washington Post, focused on race and gender, which I really recommend to check out. Diallo also co-hosts a podcast called Kif Taras, a French podcast that she co-hosts with Grace Lee, exploring issues of identity and race, which I also recommend if you are a French speaker. And in 2022, she established Word, a school focused on communication and public speaking skills for emerging organizers and activists. And we are very happy to have you back in DC. And finally, Alice Diop, who is an acclaimed French director of Senegalese descent. She holds a master's degree in history and a doctorate in visual sociology from the Panthéon-Sorbonne University. She has directed multiple celebrated documentaries. Among them, her notable works are Danton's research from 2011 that received awards at the Cinéma du Réel Festival and the Étoile de la Scam. Vers la tendresse, 2016, earning her a César for Best Short Film, and the Grand Prix at the Brief Festival, Film Festival, sorry. And her documentary Nous, 2020, won the Encounters Award in the Berlin International Film Festival. And in 2022, transitioning to fiction with Omer, that you just had the opportunity to watch, is her debut feature, which triumphs at the Venice International Festival, winning the Silver Lion and the Lion of the Future, amongst other awards. We are very honored to welcome you and learn more about your brilliant film as well as your journey as a filmmaker. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome. Thank you. Thank you, please. Yes, sir. And I will join the panel because I might have to help with translation because our translator has a little cough. So please, don't, that's not my regular job, so I'll try to do my best to do it.
Do you listen to me? Yeah? All right, good evening, bonsoir for the Francophone audience as well. So this is a pleasure to actually be with you, Alice, Rokhaya, and Melyssa on stage for this amazing film. And also thank you so much, Melyssa, and the initiative to also bring a conversation not only on the social issues that we see on screen, but also on cinema, right? And it's very important that a film remains also a conversation on film. So to break the ice and obviously to ask in terms of first question, maybe a little bit the inception of the work, I would like also to ask you, Alice, the use of the courtroom drama in this movie. There is like a very specific tradition in the US. When we think about courtroom drama, we think about the performance of the investigators, the lawyers. In French cinema, courtroom drama, or film de tribunal, is very different. And many movies in France are more like a kind of an investigation with the person being guilty and the institution looking at it and just like working and trying to also understand the affiliation with French institution. So my first question is around that use of the courtroom drama and how actually you think about working with this genre, knowing that in other countries it has a different resonance.
Alors déjà, merci beaucoup Melyssa et merci beaucoup Rokhaya pour l'invitation. C'est vraiment un vrai plaisir d'être là et d'avoir l'opportunité de parler avec vous de ce film et de le diffuser à Washington où je ne suis jamais venue. Déjà, pour commencer.
Thank you very much to Rokhaya and Melyssa for welcoming me here today to present my film. It's actually my first time in Washington, D.C.
Et ensuite, pour répondre à Léo, je crois que, en fait, je ne me suis pas du tout posé la question du genre dans le début de mon désir de faire le film. C'est vraiment pas du tout venu d'une idée ou même d'une envie de m'inscrire dans un genre quelconque. C'est venu de la rencontre avec une femme qui s'appelle Fabienne Cabou et d'un procès auquel j'ai assisté, d'un procès qui m'a bouleversée, qui m'a transformée. Et en fait, moi, je viens du documentaire. C'est la première fois que je faisais un film de fiction, mais je n'aurais pas fait de film si j'avais pas vécu cette expérience.
So initially, when I started to think about this film, I was not even thinking about the genre or inscribing myself in this courtroom drama. The reason why this film was made is because she attended the actual trial of Fabienne, what's her name? Cabou, who completely transformed her, impacted her, and then led to her making this movie.
Parce que c'était un procès pour infanticide, mais pas que. C'était le procès d'une femme noire jugée dans une petite ville de France très moyenne qui vote à plus de 50% Front National. C'est un film qui, en fait, le cadre de cette cour, en fait, était une manière de rendre visible un certain nombre de choses qui restent très souterrains, en fait, notamment des questions de tension raciale, des questions autour de la maternité, autour de la complexité de la maternité. Enfin, il y avait énormément d'enjeux qui devenaient visibles dans le cadre de cette cour à partir du moment où j'ai décidé d'en faire le théâtre de tous ces questionnements.
There was also the question of the court that is located in a rural, small a town in France, and here we have a black woman being on trial. So there's all these racial and social dynamics that are at play, knowing that also that town is probably voting for more than 50% on the far right. And she wanted to put all of these elements into this film. Yeah, okay. You'll do one.
Okay, when I want. Okay, good evening. I'm really glad to be here, and I'm really happy to have you, Alice, here. And thank you, Melyssa, for making that happen. It's very meaningful to me to have that film being screened here in DC, and to have Alice Diop, who is the one of the most important figure in the French cinema and the international cinema industry. Yes. So my question is, I have two questions, but the first one is about your experience as a filmmaker. So as Melyssa said in the beginning when she introduced you, your talent as a filmmaker is undisputed. You've had awards that speaks for themselves, but your work seems to be received differently in France and internationally. For example, I remember that when the announcement was made in 2022 for the Venice Film Festival, the French newspaper Le Monde announced the opening, listing all the nominees and French expectations, but there was no mention of you. You happened to be the only French person who came back home with two awards. Despite that recognition, it has happened several times, even after you made the headlines of the New York Times. So I was wondering how you would describe your experience as a filmmaker in France and here in the US.
Exactement comme une tentative permanente de résister aux tentatives d'effacement, aux tentatives de silenciation, aux tentatives d'empêchement même presque d'exister. C'est étonnant que vous, on peut se tutoyer, que tu mentionnes en fait tous ces faits. Je trouve que en fait ces faits quelque part parlent d'eux-mêmes et en fait ces faits sont presque rassurants sur en fait les logiques d'effacement qui sont en œuvre, qui sont à l'œuvre.
Yeah, there's so it's a resistance to the attempts of erasure that you face constantly on a regular basis, and this example of Le Monde not citing her as one of the people selected in the Venice Festival, and then coming back with 2 prizes and still not being recognized, I guess is just speaks for themselves and of what the situation is in France for black women filmmakers such as yourself.
Et la vérité, c'est que mes films sont très 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 français. Mes films ne parlent que de la France. En fait, je n'ai jamais filmé que la France, quasiment. Et ma reconnaissance internationale, même pas ma reconnaissance internationale, mais juste ma reconnaissance en tant que cinéaste, est toujours venue de l'étranger. Tu mentionnais le prix à Venise, mais avant Venise, avec mon documentaire Nous, j'ai eu 2 prix à Berlin, oui, dont le Golden Beer du meilleur documentaire. Et en fait, en France, il n'y avait pas du tout de mention, ni dans la presse, ni Unifrance qui porte en fait la vision du cinéma à l'étranger, avait complètement oublié de mentionner l'ours d'or obtenu par mon film. Et c'est mon producteur, même pas du film en question, mais de Saint-Omer sur lequel j'étais en train de travailler, qui a envoyé un message pour dire mais c'est complètement fou. Et la directrice d'Unifrance s'est excusée en disant mais écoutez, c'est un malentendu, on sait une excuse, mais en fait, c'est marrant que 5 ans après, il y a eu exactement la même chose. Donc je pense que c'est des logiques d'effacement qui sont même pas forcément conscientes, Et c'est ça que je trouve presque plus inquiétant et presque plus violent, en fait.
The odd thing is that all of the films that she makes are very French, always shot in France, about French characters, and yet this logic of erasure, as she just called it, continues to happen. Knowing that even for her documentaire Nous, 5 years ago, she had received the highest prize in the Golden Bear at the Berlin Festival, and yet it was also yet not mentioned publicly until somebody, one of the producer of this film, complained about it to the organization, I guess, who should have been sharing the news to the French audiences.
C'est tellement violent, en fait, c'est tellement énorme que ça dit presque tout et ça dit presque trop, en fait. Mais voilà, donc je pense qu'en tant que femme noire cinéaste française, je crois que c'est à la fois c'est une lutte permanente pour résister aux tentatives d'effacement, et en même temps c'est utiliser cet espace comme refuge pour aller tenter de donner une forme à ce dont il s'agit en fait. Et essayer que ça ne reste pas dans l'abstraction, mais que ce soit complètement formalisé et que les films puissent inventer des formes pour dire quelles sont ces logiques de silenciation dont on est encore victime quand on est une femme noire cinéaste en France aujourd'hui.
The experience is extremely violent, as you can imagine, and it keeps on repeating itself. And at this point, cinema has become for her a refuge where she can, I guess, process and forget about this constant erasure of your work as a Black filmmaker. Is that good enough? Yes.
Et presque rendre visible. En fait, rendre visible, donner une forme et rendre visible en fait cette abstraction en fait, et de donner.
And to bring light to this abstraction, and yeah, make it visible. Do you have another? Yeah. Go ahead.
So one of the beautiful strengths also of the movie is the use of the language. I think for everyone looking at the character of Laurence, but also Rama, the way they understand the power of French language and the way you have to use it to be powerful in the French mediascape in general, but also the way the French different actors react to that power of language, right? Which is also a way for you to reveal sexism, racism, but also what is the expectation of a Black woman to be educated and tamed in a space like that. And I'm thinking about one of your book, Rokhaya, Rester à sa place, ne pas rester à sa place. No? How did you work with the language and the adaptation? And how did you create that doppelganger, this dialogical relationship with Rama, with also a guide for us to receive, to listen, but also to feel the violence of that trial and the way Laurence has to deal with this violence around her?
C'est une question trop large pour trop. Je passerais des heures si je devais raconter, mais peut-être que je vais me focus sur le point sur le langage parce que.
May I add something? Language in France is a very central element to the French identity. So I think that there is maybe a shock to see a Black Senegalese woman using something that is so core to the French identity in such a beautiful way. So how was it? Like how do you think it's telling so much about the perception of Black people in France?
En fait, moi, je pense que la matière première de mon film, si je peux parler comme ça, c'est la langue de cette femme, la langue documentaire de cette femme. Donc, le film est inspiré d'un fait divers et le scénario a été construit à partir des minutes, en tout cas tout ce qui se passe au procès est quasiment le verbatim documentaire au mot près de la langue parlée par cette femme. Donc, en d'autres termes, s'il n'y avait pas eu... c'est presque la langue de cette femme qui est à la source du désir du film, parce que cette langue, effectivement, elle dit beaucoup de choses sur la situation de cette femme, sur la situation des femmes noires en France, sur la manière dont elles sont fantasmées, sur la manière dont elles ne peuvent résister qu'à cet endroit-là. En tout cas, moi, ça a été vraiment le point déterminant dans mon désir de faire le film, était d'avoir entendu la langue de cette femme et d'avoir voulu la restituer, mais presque au mot près.
So the very source of this film is the language of this woman that she is trying to portray on screen, which tells us so much about Black women in France and Black women who are immigrants, and which inspired the whole plot, basically, behind. And it is also I think we call it an everyday story. I'm not sure, a fait divers, which is like the small little story in the newspaper, and that turned into, that she thought was worthy of making a film about, and specifically focusing on the language of this woman.
Et le film commence par une universitaire, Ama, qui enseigne dans une des universités les plus importantes. Ça pourrait être la Sorbonne. Enfin, dans le film, c'est pas nommé. En l'occurrence là, c'est Sciences Po, mais ça pourrait être la Sorbonne. Une femme noire dans une position d'autorité, comme c'était presque de la science-fiction au moment où j'ai commencé à travailler sur le film. C'est quelque chose que j'avais jamais vu au cinéma, que j'ai rarement vu même dans la littérature. Et donc, c'est sûr que la question de la langue, elle dit, en tout cas dans le film, que ce soit pour Laurence ou pour Ama, c'est une tentative de résister en fait à la somme de projections et même à l'invisibilité de ce type de femmes, et dans l'espace public en fait, à leurs paroles, à ce qu'elles sont, et moi, ce qui m'a particulièrement touchée avec Laurence Colli, Fabienne Cabou, c'est que sa langue, c'est presque la dernière chose c'est la seule chose qu'elle a pour tenter de se dire et pour tenter d'être pour une fois écoutée et vue. Et donc il y avait quelque chose d'un soin pour moi hyper important et presque politique à faire entendre la langue de cette femme.
The film initially starts with this Rama, who is a professor at Sciences Po, one of the most prestigious universities in France, and which is something that Alice never got to see on screen, and if ever in real life, actually. To meet black women professors, and to bring her on screen was an important choice, but also the language of then the other character that is also being brought to the screen, to bring those women to make them visible, which we never speak about those women in the media or in our regular French lives, quote unquote.
So Alice, you're French with a Senegalese background, and both your main protagonists are French, or either Senegalese or French Senegalese. Do you keep a special place for Senegal in your work?
En fait, je pense qu'il est pas forcément, enfin, il est complètement intégré à ma manière très spécifiquement sénégalaise d'être française, en fait. Je ne sais pas comment tu...
You're French?
Non, le Sénégal, enfin, tu vois, c'est totalement intégré à ma façon d'être française.
Yeah, so Senegal is just an integral part of her being French. And that's what it is. And this is what happens when we have hybrid identities. I think we are ready to open it up to the audience for questions. Anybody wants to start? We have a microphone somewhere up there. I think, perfect. So there's one in the back, and then we can see you here. We'll probably bring it.
Bonjour, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much in English or in French?
English, ideally, so everybody can understand.
Well, thank you very much. Well, I'm French, and I completely identify to your movie. Thank you very much. I have a generational question. Like I've been raised in the movies of Kerry James, painting the France of the neighborhoods where there is a lot of bitterness and anger against the French way to have redistributed the wealth and the chances of education. And well, we know what is it about when we are French. And now I feel that there is a new generation of movies that are more trying to put some individuals succeeding even though they have this kind of background, whether from immigration or from these neighborhoods. So I want your opinion on, is it a new wave that is now happening, and how to make it not just individuals, but normality, how to make it normal to see someone with that kind of language that is not exotism, like, okay, she's outside of what we used to see. So what is your view on that? And thank you.
En fait, moi, je fais les films que je dois faire. Et je pense que des gens qui viennent de banlieue, qui ont un background, enfin, je pense qu'on n'est pas une nouvelle génération, ça existe depuis qu'il y a des immigrés, enfin, ça existe depuis toujours, en fait. C'est pas quelque chose ni inventé par Karen James, ni inventé par moi. C'est que je sais pas trop comment répondre à votre question. Ça fait 25 ans que je fais des films. J'ai fait des études universitaires. Pourtant, je viens de ces quartiers populaires, mais comme nombre de gens avant moi, c'est quelque chose qui n'est pas nouveau. C'est sans doute quelque chose qui n'était pas forcément visible. On n'avait pas forcément les moyens et en fait le réseau pour pouvoir faire des films. Mais c'est quelque chose qui existe depuis bien longtemps avant l'existence de Kerry James en tant que cinéaste, qui n'est pas cinéaste, mais qui est rappeur en fait. Donc voilà, je ne sais pas si je réponds.
It's a hard, basically, questions to answer, and she doesn't think that she's the first of anything. There have been people doing this before. She's been making film for 25 years. Obviously, there are not a lot of people, and she also explained how she has grown up in one of those popular neighborhoods, went to university, studied, and clearly the opportunities are not many to be in this type of environment, but there have been people before, and I guess there will also be people after, hopefully. Right? Hope that answers the...
Et puis je crois que le film n'a rien à voir avec la banlieue, en fait. C'est pour ça que je n'ai pas trop compris la question de base, c'est qu'il a vraiment rien à voir avec le fait de... Enfin, c'est très anecdotique, le fait qu'elle vienne d'un quartier populaire, c'est pas... Donc voilà, je pense que je n'ai pas vraiment compris la question.
I think that, the question was not really maybe well understood, but she has a hard time answering it because the film has nothing to do also with those neighborhoods, or the popular neighborhoods of la banlieue. It's just a minimal detail within the biographical experience of this character on screen. So, yeah. Another question?
Yes, right here.
Yeah,
so, hello everyone. Thank you so much. Hello, Rokhaya. Right here.
Because we can't really see the audience.
So first of all, thank you so much. This film was absolutely poignant. I don't really know how to translate that in English. And it's really about the complexity of this woman, right? And almost her internal dialogue. And I wanted to hear from you the place of motherhood in it, and how did you play with it, like the place of maternity. The last monologue about the chimère was extremely powerful, so if you could talk a little bit more about that. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Peut-être que j'ai mal répondu à la question d'avant, parce que honnêtement, je pense que j'ai fait ce film pour échapper aux assignations de la cinéaste de la banlieue, avec le discours qu'on s'attend à ce que je porte. En fait, j'ai presque fait ce film, effectivement, pour parler de la complexité de la maternité, et que cette question universelle, travaillée, portée par des femmes noires, soit quelque chose qui puisse résonner dans le monde entier. Et heureusement, je pense que depuis 2 ans, la tournée mondiale que j'ai fait autour de ce film m'a conforté dans l'idée que c'était possible de parler, de questionner l'universel en l'inscrivant, en l'ancrant dans nos histoires individuelles et personnelles. Et ça, pour moi, c'est quelque chose de profondément politique. Donc, merci beaucoup pour votre question.
Thank you very much for this question, because that's exactly, I guess, one of the goals that she was trying to do, is to speak about motherhood in a universal terms, yet carried out by a Black woman, and being able to think about Black women when we think of the universality of motherhood. And she's been able to take this film around the world in the past couple of years, and indeed seeing how it works, and people can actually see now the universality of motherhood through these characters. And thank you again for the question, because it was 2 thank yous. So yeah. Yes, I think there was one there. Thank you.
Hi, I agree with the previous person who asked the question. That closing argument was unbelievably powerful. So I thank you for your work. I have to see this film again. How, where, because it's one that I have so much to say about. And I want to be able to watch it with other people. I want to talk about it. So please share How can I see this film again? How can we see this film again?
I think it's available on Hulu, on YouTube, to buy and to screen. If you have a subscription with Hulu, it's available. And I also saw that on YouTube, I think for $3.99 you can watch the film. So yeah, it's actually, me too, I've been, last year it was not available, but it is now, so. Oh, yeah, and she doesn't even know about it, so I'm glad I had that answer. Because I'm sure you're not checking where is my film available in what country. Yeah, you're making another movie, right? Yes. Yes, there's another question, I think, in the back, and I think we'll have time for another two more questions. And then and we'll take the two in the back. Also, there will be a little reception after this, so you feel free to stay and enjoy and connect with each other after the film. Oh, I think you. Oh, what is that? Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much
Hi.
for this amazing film. So it was your first fiction, and my question is your next project a fiction or a documentary?
I think it's a fiction. Enfin, je suis sûre que ce sera une fiction. Ce sera une fiction.
I think that's a neat translation, right? A fiction film where I guess this is what Alice Diop does from now on, and we're very happy about it.
Oh, hello. I actually just finished writing a master's thesis, which focused in part on your last documentary film, Nous. So I'm interested in this kind of the difference between filmmaking in documentary cinema and then transitioning to fiction. Specifically, I know that Nous, it was still very structured. It was very intentional, based on the book that you, but I guess I kind of assume that there's still an element of improvisation in documentary while in the act of filming, and I was wondering if you could just speak on that a little bit, and then maybe also comment on how it differed in the making of this film as fiction, if there was also an element of improvisation.
Alors, il n'y avait pas du tout d'improvisation dans la direction d'acteur. Enfin, comme je le dis, la langue était tellement centrale et en fait tellement minutieusement retranscrite qu'il ne s'agissait pas du tout d'improviser. C'était très écrit. Le scénario était très écrit, notamment toutes les scènes au tribunal. Mais par contre, la direction d'acteur a été très inspirée par mon background de documentariste, dans le sens où je pense que j'ai choisi des comédiennes pour ce qu'elles étaient et pour la façon dont ce qu'elles étaient allait rentrer en écho avec ce que j'imaginais des personnages. Donc je suis vraiment partie plus des personnes, des femmes, en fait, de ces femmes-là, que ce soit Laurence, que ce soit Rama, même la présidente du tribunal. Et l'idée, c'était de travailler en fait le lien entre cette matière documentaire qu'elles incarnaient et un personnage écrit très précisément.
So there was not a lot of improvisation at all, because the scenario was really written, and so I guess you were faithful to the scenario. But the one thing that happened is that the characters and the actual actors themselves that she got to work with after, I guess, selecting them, that you worked with in more of a documentary style to actually make those roles match their own person. Yeah. And I think there was like a last question in the back.
Thank you for this wonderful film. A lot has been said about the power of the language in the film, but there was a lot that was conveyed by silence and the expressions of the actors, who were absolutely stunning. I want to hear more about how you work with them to achieve that. There was this evenness of the reaction when they weren't speaking that was very moving. So I want to hear more about that, please.
Thank you so much. En fait, je pense qu'il y a une femme. Enfin, le film est est construit sur l'idée d'une femme qui parle alors qu'elle voudrait se taire, et une femme qui est parlée, ça va être compliqué à traduire, mais par les mots d'une autre en fait.
The movie is about a woman that is speaking. Non, répète-moi ça.
Une fille qui parle, en fait, qui est obligée de parler alors qu'elle voudrait se taire.
Voilà, who has no choice but to speak, although she would like to stay silent.
Et une autre, en fait, qui parle les mots d'une autre.
And the other one who is speaking, but through the words of the other woman.
Donc le silence de Rama et les mots de Laurence, en fait, toute la mise en scène a été construite autour de cette tension entre cette...
So the silence of Rama and the words of Laurence and the whole film was built around that tension between those two elements of the silence on the one hand and the sort of over speaking on the other side of the language that came out of Laurence.
En fait, c'est en écoutant les mots de cette femme qu'elle revisite et qu'elle guérit et qu'elle traverse ses propres traumas, en fait.
And it's by listening to the words of this other woman that she's able to heal and tend to her own traumas.
Donc effectivement, le silence dans le film est tout aussi important que la parole.
So yeah, absolutely. Silence is as important as the actual speech and the language or verbal language, at least in the film. I think we are. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the translation. Thank you. I know it's not your work. Thank you.
Thank you for indulging me with this non-professional translation.
Thank you.
Thank you to Alice Diop for making it, for coming to visit us at Georgetown. It was the first time, but I hope it is not the last time.
No, not
thank you to Rokhaya Diallo. Thank you to Leonard, Cortana for joining us for this conversation. And thank you to all of you for joining us today. And we hope to see you at the next screening with French in Motion, Gender Justice Initiative, and all our Georgetown partners. And we also have more programs coming up, so please feel free to check out our website for more information. Thank you all, and have a great, and please, we'll see you there.